Okay, so we are at the point where we are ready to join in our doll's arms. And so I saw a few of you guys was saying that when you're doing the math from the pattern, that your arms are coming out slightly twisted. And so you're just not sure. And I've done it from the pattern a few times now. And actually, I was getting ready to do it a third time, and I was like, oh, why don't I just record it? So yeah, and I don't know why I picked black pants because, geez Louise, the stuffing on black pants, it irks my nerves, and I just pick and pick and pick. But anyway, so I decided to just go ahead and record myself attaching the arms. Now, like I said, for me, for the most part, the math was working. Now, because I've like taken it out, started it over, taken it out, my stitches I've noticed are stretched a little bit, and so we'll see what happens this time. Here's the thing. If you find that your arms they look like they're twisted, or they're not in a place that where you want them to be, it's really easy to modify it and put the arms where you want. Now, mind you, the math in the pattern necessarily won't be the same if you do it, but it's not a huge deal because you're still going to be able to do what you need to do, even if the math is just slightly off. So, and a few of you have figured that out, because I've seen that you said that, hey, my arms were a little twisted, but I was able to make the adjustments. And so for those of you who, look, I want to just follow the pattern, I understand, and I know that. Just know with something like this, again, it still depends on your aesthetic. And it also, I'm realizing how huge your tension plays a part in this, and like the yarn that you use and the hook size that you use can really just have you coming out with something totally different than what the pattern is. And not that I didn't know that before, but doing this crochet along really has like heightened it for me to see it even more. Any case, the thing is, you do want your arms to kind of fall right here on her side. Now, this is probably a pro or a checkbox for sewing on your limbs instead of adding them in this way. I really dislike sewing on my limbs because for some reason when I sew them on, I can never get them right. When I do them this way, I can get them right, but when I sew them on, oh my gosh, it's a disaster. But I could see now why people might prefer sewing them on, because sewing them on, I could see why you wouldn't have to worry about this. But in any case, we're not sewing them on. We are going to join them into her body, and the goal is for her arms to kind of fall right at her side. If you wanted them to be back a little bit more, you certainly can. If you want them to be a little bit more forward, not a whole lot, but a little bit more forward, you certainly can. But I just kind of like for mine to fall right here at the side. And like I said, the math there seemed to be working for me. But again, I'm going to show you guys how you can easily modify it if for some reason they're not falling exactly the way you want them to. So with the pattern, it says to start with single crochet in the first 11 stitches. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. Now, so I've crocheted into my first 11 stitches. Now, if I felt like this was, and I'm sorry, I just realized that the camera keeps kind of leaning. Yeah. Okay, hope that is better. It's the position that I have to put it in to be able to do this, because now she has more body. Again, I am used to like holding her up and crocheting her, and now trying to like keep her in frame is a little bit harder now that she has a bit more body to kind of maneuver with. But in any case, we single crocheted in those first 11 stitches. And so right now, it looks like if I were to join in my arm is going to be a little bit forward. which I'm okay with, because it'll get joined in right about here, which is like kind of, it's still here at her side, just slightly forward. If you felt like, you know what, I don't want mine to be that forward, I want mine to be even more on her side, you could single crochet 12 if you felt like that. What I would advise you to do is, wherever it is you decide that single crochet is going to be, so this is what it would be if it was 12. See how that's a little bit more to her side? Again, I like it at 11, so I'm going to stick with 11. But whatever stitch you decide that, okay, that's how many I'm going to crochet, like I'm going to do 11 or I'm going to do 12, it shouldn't be more than 1 or 2 stitches. So at the most, you could probably go to 13. I personally think 13 might be a little too far back, but again, this is your doll, it's your personal preference. Wherever it is that you decide you're going to do that stitch, put a stitch marker there. And so again, like I said, I single crocheted 11. Now, if you're going to do it exactly like the pattern, like you like the way the pattern worked out, then don't worry about putting the stitch markers here. If you're changing something, then put the stitch markers here to note, just know, okay, I crocheted 11 stitches, or I crocheted 12 stitches, or I crocheted 13 stitches, or however many you crocheted, put a stitch marker there. And so it says crochet 11 stitches, and then we're going to join in the arm, and we want to make sure that the bend in the arm is facing the body of the doll. Now, because I've done this a few times now, I can go ahead and tell you to do that. It falls on the 10th stitch of the arm is where the join should be. And so and this is counting clockwise after I fastened off. So if I'm counting clockwise after I fastened off, if I go ahead and join in the 10th stitch, I find that it's gonna have that bend in the arm kind of exactly where I want it to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and insert my hook into that 10th stitch, and I'm just gonna go ahead and do a single crochet. Now, initially with the arms, I do know that I told you to leave a long tail that we would be using to close up the hole that's gonna be created. However, because of how we're sewing it on, that tail is not gonna work. And so again, I've done this a couple of times, and so I've already cut my tail off, but you can go ahead and kind of crochet over the tail if you have a long tail, and then snip off any excess if there's excess, and then I just stuff it right into the arm. So I'm gonna do like 4 stitches over that tail, and then I'll just stuff it right into the arm, and then we're just gonna have to cut some yarn and sew up the hole that's going to be created. But after we go into that 10th stitch, we're just going to single crochet into each stitch around. So we want to do each stitch, a single crochet into each stitch of the arm. And then once we get back around, now we are going to single crochet into, and here's the thing, be careful not to do an extra single crochet into that stitch. That was actually your first stitch, so be careful not to do an extra single crochet there. But now that we're back around, like there should be 12 stitches on the arm, now we are going to, the pattern says to do a single crochet into the next 15 stitches of the body. So again, there's already a single crochet into that stitch, so I'm going into the next stitch and I'm going to do 15 and single crochet 15. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And so I've single crocheted into 15 stitches on the body, and now I can join in my arm. Now here's the thing, if I felt like, because you can kind of see if that is going to be too far back or too far forward or not lined up with this stitch, again, you can move it 1 or 2 stitches. Now, when I'm looking at this now, it looks like to me that I could probably come 1 stitch forward. And so instead of doing single crochet into 15, I'm going to do single crochet into 16, which is now going to leave me 3 stitches left on my body. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a stitch marker there to notate that that's where I joined in my arm. So I'm going to put a stitch marker there just to note, okay, so my arm join was done on 16 instead of 15. And you can do the same thing. So if you need to move it up 1 or 2 stitches or move it back 1 or 2 stitches, put a stitch marker there. Now, because I use these colored stitch markers, make sure that you don't use the same color as your ending stitch marker so that you still know this is where you started and ended. So, you know, I have several different colors to choose from. But we won't need these for long, just about 2 more rows, and then we can get rid of these. But you do need to have a stitch marker there just to notate, hey, this is where I joined in my arm. And so I'm going to go ahead and pick up the arm, and the same thing applies for this arm as well. I'm going to go into the 10th stitch of the arm. So if we're counting clockwise, after you fastened off, you're going to insert your hook into the 10th stitch and then go ahead and do a single crochet, and then you're going to single crochet into each stitch around. And again, you should have 12 stitches on your arm. And again, this gets a little bit harder because I can't bring her up to my body like I need to, but we're gonna make it work. So we have this, and again, like I said, initially she had the long tail because we use that to close up the hole that's created, but because of where we had to sew it on, that tail was not needed. I didn't take into account the bend in her arm and that we would just have to close up the hole a different way. And so no worries, because we can just cut the yarn off or cut the yarn to close up that hole later. And like I said, I'm just going to snip off some excess here and then just stuff that right into her arm. And then I am going to go ahead and, like I said, finish this off a single crochet into each stitch of the arm so that it's 12. I don't know why my camera don't want me to be great today. All right, so we have our 12 stitches, and now, like I said, because I came up to 16, I should only have 3 stitches remaining in her body. So I am going to single crochet into those 3 stitches on her body. And then we'll take a look at her arms again and just make sure before I move forward. Sometimes I've had to frog the arms several times because they just didn't look like they were lining up the way I wanted them to. But if I feel like, okay, yep, that's where I want them, they look even to me, they look pretty even to me, and so we can go ahead and go on to the next row. But again, remember, so the pattern says to do single crochet in 15 stitches of the body, but after doing 15 stitches and kind of looking at it, I felt like the 15th stitch was going to be too far back, and so I moved up to the 16th stitch. And so instead of joining the arm on the 16th, I did it on the 15th. And you're going to have to do the same thing. Again, I've done this several times and the 15th stitch worked fine. I think because I've pulled it out so many times, it's kind of like just stretched out my yarn a little bit. And now it's just like, boo, look, do you know where you want these arms to be? But I'm not pulling this out anymore. So we are definitely going with the 16th stitch. Like I said, it looks good. And I'm ready to continue on. And so the next round or row, we are just going to single crochet, 1 single crochet in each stitch around. You should have a total of 54 stitches. You definitely want to count and make sure that you have 54 stitches. So I got 2, and I'm gonna put that stitch marker back. This is stitch number 11. That's where I joined in my arm, but I'm gonna put that back because I'm gonna use it in the next row. And again, we are just gonna keep single crocheting all the way around, so including now the stitches on our body. And why did I stop counting? This was 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20, And again, I'm going to put my stitch marker back there just to notate where I joined in this arm. Two, 3, and 54. So I got my 54 stitches. In our next row, so let me explain to you what we're doing the next row, just in case you had to make changes so that your arms did not look twisted. Basically what we're going to do now is we're going to take away 4 stitches, but we're going to take away 2 at where we joined it. So we're taking away the stitch every place that we joined in the arm. So wherever we joined the arm, we're going to do a decrease. And so the way the math works right now in the pattern, as you will see, it says to single crochet 11, which is what we did. You know, we joined the arm on the 11th stitch, right? Or at least that's what I did. So if you joined on the 12th stitch, you're going to go ahead and single crochet 12. So single crochet to wherever you have that stitch marker. And then after the stitch marker, you're going to do a decrease. Because what we're doing, I need her armpits or whatever to come in a little bit so that she doesn't look like she has linebacker shoulders. There's nothing wrong with linebacker shoulders. We just don't want her to have linebacker shoulders, but nothing wrong with them if you have them. So we are going to, like I said, crochet to where we had the stitch marker. And you really don't have to put the stitch marker back here now because, yeah, you don't need it anymore. So I'm going to just go ahead and take that one out because you don't need it after you do this round. So again, after the stitch marker, I'm going to decrease. So we're going to decrease there. And then for my pattern, it says to one single crochet in the next 8 stitches, which is going to take me to where I did the join in the back. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And then I'm gonna decrease, and again I'm decreasing right before I did that join, so right before I did the join in the back. And so we're decreasing, and then now it says to do 1 single crochet in the next 15 stitches, but you, again, for me, I actually went to 16. So again, I'm gonna crochet right until I get to my next stitch marker, and then I know that I should decrease right after that stitch marker. So again, if you had to make a change, you can have those stitch markers there to help you see, well, where is my decrease going to be, because the math is going to be different. And so just crochet right to that next stitch marker, and then after you do the single crochet in the space where the stitch marker is, then you're going to do your decrease. So I'm going to do a single crochet into that space where the stitch marker is, and then I'm going to decrease. Okay, and so we do our decrease there, and then we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it still should be 8 stitches, because we're doing the stitches on the arm, so it still should be 8 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then I decrease, and then you should have your 3 stitches remaining. Or for me, it was going to be 3 stitches remaining. The pattern says 4 because, again, it was remembering that would have been if I had done it on the 15th stitch, but because I'm doing it here, that's going to be on, it's only going to leave me with 3 stitches remaining instead of 4. Okay, so do you, hopefully you understand, I'm talking like y'all alive. Hopefully you'll understand how that works. And so what we have now is, we have her here, we have our first decrease row, and so we joined in the arms, and again I just moved up 1 stitch. We wanted to make sure that these were kind of turned, that her bend in her elbow was kind of turned towards her body. And now we can just continue on with the pattern again. So it's going to say 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches, single crochet together, repeat 12 times. And you want to do that, and then however many stitches you have on the end, that's how many you crochet in the end. That's, you know, if you didn't have to move anything, if you didn't have to change anything, then just follow what the pattern says. But if you had to move some things around to get it to work the way you need it to work, then just do what the pattern says. It says 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So 1, 2, and decrease. Like this part doesn't change. 1, 2, and decrease. And 1 and 2 and decrease. And basically we're doing this all the way around until you don't have any stitches left, or until like you can't do it anymore. So we're doing 1, 2 decrease until you can't do that anymore. So if you get like you have 2 stitches left, or you have 1 stitch left, then just single crochet in whatever stitch is left. If you moved it. If you didn't move it, then it should be as the pattern states, and you should have 2 stitches remaining. 1, 2, and decrease. And 1, 2, and decrease. 1, 2, and decrease. 1, 2, and decrease. decrease, 1, 2, and decrease. And what do you know? I still have 2 stitches remaining. So I'm just gonna do 1 and 2. I got to the end. And so basically you're doing the 1, 2 decrease until you get all the way around and you can't do it anymore. So however, like if there's not enough stitches to do the 1, 2 decrease, then if it was just 2 stitches left, then I just single crochet in those 2 stitches. And again, y'all can't see her when I keep trying to stand her up, but y'all can't see her when I stand her up. And so then the next round is basically we're doing 1 single crochet in the next stitch, single crochet, decrease. Again, it's the same thing. We're repeating that around until we don't have any, like until we can't repeat it anymore. And so again, it's going to be 1 decrease, 1 decrease. So 1 single crochet and then a decrease. And you're just going to keep doing that until you get back over here. And if it's 1 stitch left, then single crochet in that last stitch. If it's 2 stitches left, single crochet in that last stitch. Whatever it is, just keep single crocheting around, repeating that pattern until you can't repeat that pattern anymore. Okay? Again, hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, let me know. But this is the best way that I can show you to join in the arms that works with everybody's tension and works with whatever yarn you're using. Like I said, the math is right for the most part. It may be off by 1, or it shouldn't be off by more than 1 or 2 stitches. And that just really, again, because all day this was working fine with me doing the 15, and then of course as soon as I get on camera, the 15 didn't look as good anymore, and I was like, well, let me move it up 1 stitch and let's do 16. And so if you're looking at yours, I know it can be frustrating to kind of have to pull it back, but the easiest thing is just to pull it back. That's why I don't go way far in it. Like right after I join my arms, I look at them and I'm like, do I like this? Do I want to keep moving forward before I move forward? Like the most I would do is probably, I would do row 20 and 21. And after looking at row 21, if my arms are not in a position that I like after looking at them on row 21, then I will take them out and I will do them again. I will adjust them to how I need to adjust them so that they do look right. And again, normally it's no more than 1 or 2 stitches at the most. If it's more than that, then there's something else wrong. Okay, if you have any questions about anything, let me know. I'll be live tomorrow night for the crochet along. If you're watching this after the crochet along is over, then I will not be live tomorrow night because I believe I'm going to use this video in the pattern itself to help people do their arms.